Hi, everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 13th of 2020, and welcome to Rudy's Psychic Meetup. Hello, Rudy. You have a great agenda tonight.
Great, thanks. We're going to be talking and reviewing some of Sylvia Brown's predictions. We're going to talk about skinwalkers and a Bible story, The Walls of Jericho. So we got some good stuff. And welcome to all the new people that have joined Sam's Discord in the month of May. So this is our bi-weekly psychic meetup where we go deeper into woo-woo topics. We don't really go into crypto or the other stuff. So if you ever have topics or questions you want to put in or a topic you want to explore, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Rudy. And we have Silver Spirit and David 14 is in the house. Oh, hi, David. He was on the last live stream as well. Very dedicated and always great to have you in the room, David. And it's nice to see that Randall made it, as well as Kat and Nadia. Cat Lady, speaking of cats, Cat Lady from Arizona is here. And so is Petty Boy. Hi, nice to see you too. And Teresa's here as well, chiming in. And Cryptometrist, it's Cryptomist. That's it. Cryptomist. How are you doing tonight? So thanks so much, Rudy. And if you wanted to get started on the topics, I'm sure that everybody here, oh, hey, Lucy, will chime in when they have a question or a comment.
All right, let's jump right in. So tonight we're going to continue our review of Sylvia Brown's predictions for the next 100 years. There's about 40 of them listed that somebody posted. So we've been going over about 10 of them in each meetup. So today we're going to go through numbers 21 through 30. And Sam, I will read the prediction and get your thoughts on what you think about it. So number 21, treatment for depression and mood disorders will come from a control chamber that emits sensory stimulation gently to the brain, including certain smells which elevate mood.
Yes, that is true.
Okay. I wonder if they're doing that already. That sounds, my wife has something that's like a neuropathy, something that she's working with. All right. The next one is a medical pill in medicine in pill form goes away. Instead, we have air injected delivery through the skin.
Well, it never completely goes away, but I do agree with her seeing that this is probably something that people will have done more commonly, because if they can inject it directly into your bloodstream, it does take effect quicker. And if they have something that's easy to use that they can just, sell in the disposable injectors, right? Or perhaps there's one that you have, just like how everybody has a thermometer, for example. So you go out, you buy one of those injectors, and then these refillable things, whatever the medicine is, that's when I think she was seeing that. And that's just going to be a more common way to get it. And, like if you have a headache, normally you have to wait about 20 minutes before the medicine takes effect. And another issue is that when people are nauseous, they can't keep a pill down. Right. So this is one of the reasons that it's, pushing forward this type of technology where it becomes more commonly used.
Okay. I feel like I've seen that in either Star Trek or some other sci-fi genre where they do those, and inject your medicine. Number 23 is atomic batteries will run cars.
I don't know about atomic, but it is definitely a longer life battery that we've never seen before. And it does have some different, I think that she might have called it an atomic battery because she didn't know what it was, because it's not something that's currently invented or that we know about, the components in this battery that make it last so much longer. Because someone was asking me about that. They said, will electric cars, be the future? And it's like, yeah, once they get their battery life to last, so much longer. And also, I know that they can charge while they're driving as well. But once you can get a battery that doesn't need to be recharged for maybe 3 days or so, that's when, you've got it. That's a good situation with your electric vehicle, and there'll be mass adoption.
Okay. Do you think they'll contain silver or have any sort of silver in
them? I did see that silver was going to be involved in transportation. I didn't take it that way. Okay. I took it more like the the one that goes around the world. There's something that goes around the world. Yeah.
Okay, almost like levitation or
Yeah.
maglev. Okay,
Yeah. There's something that's like a train
okay.
that they have, and it's just going to use the component of silver like crazy. So
Interesting. All right, new electrics. Yeah. All right, number 24. No more gas-propelled rockets in space. We will have nuclear-powered, cylinder-shaped objects that travel everywhere.
well, I don't think they're nuclear powered. I think they're the same thing that is going to be in the batteries of those cars.
Okay.
So this is also going to be used in space travel as well. And it's because of the length of time that these batteries can last for.
Okay. All right. Number 25. A moon base is created for people to visit and as a stopping place for further trips.
I know, leave it to humans. I don't see it as a stopping place for further trips,
Mhm.
but I do see it as a destination. I do see regular in my lifetime. I do believe that I will be able to buy a ticket on one of those. Oh, they're just, I think they're called like starships or something. And what they do is they just go right on the edge of space. So they go up much higher than, and then there's a portion of it where you go up and you're actually, it's like anti-gravity.
By 2025, most people will live in dome cities due to poor atmospheric conditions.
No, that's not true.
Okay. Number 27, a virtual reality headset will stimulate brainwaves so people can learn whole libraries of information within hours.
No, that's not going to be possible.
Yeah, I can't download like the Matrix. Now I know Kung Fu, right?
Yeah.
Number 28, giant fruits and vegetables will be grown in hothouse environments. The nutrients will be synthesized into a highly condensed injection.
Well, I don't know about that. And about giant fruits and vegetables. I know that more people are going to be growing their own fruits and vegetables, and that the vertical farms will become popular. And it's just going to be because of a short term, issue with food, right? It's, something that happens in society all over the world. And it's, some places definitely worse than others. But what it did, it kind of spurs on these little hobby thing. You know how everybody got into everyone was into Legos, and then everyone was
Yeah.
into Slinkies, and everyone was into Cabbage Patch Kids. I'm kind of feeling like everyone's going to be into gardening.
Well, during World War II, they had what they called victory gardens here in the States, where just because out of necessity, if you wanted fresh fruits and vegetables, you had to grow your own. Yeah. All right. Number 29, proteins are developed without animal meat. Very powerful, builds immune system.
I don't know anything about that. I don't have
Okay.
any information on that.
All right. And the last one, addictions will be a thing of the past because of brain stimulation, which eradicates all addictions with no side effects.
Yes, and that's actually I can see people. You know how they have the cochlear implants, and I was very surprised to hear from somebody who was involved in the deaf community that there is actually, a fight against cochlear implants. And I'm like, well, geez, if I was deaf, I'd want to be able to hear, or my child, but they're actually against that. The cochlear, just a certain group of them. You've never heard of that before either, have you?
No, that's why.
No,
Yeah, why would you be
I
against
know.
it?
I know, it's very intense. So there's going to be, you can go in for a procedure, and it'll get rid of your addiction like that. But the problem is that people who do it, if they don't have like the intense counseling and stuff, then whatever it was that caused them to have that drug addiction,
Okay.
because normally when people are, it would only be the small percentage that were pursuing it just because they were just trying to hit the button of their pleasure center because they were bored all the time, right? This is a very small percentage of the people who will, steal from their friends and family to feed an addiction. So this is going to be, I see, as soon as when you were talking about that, I was seeing the story that yes, it comes true, but there's going to be sort of a group of people who are against that because they're like, well, they have to go through the withdrawal and training themselves to go without. It's just the same as people who are against, individuals having their stomach stapled. They're like, oh, you're just going to gain the weight back because you didn't go through the, whole procedure of knowing why you eat chips after 11 o'clock. I don't know. Whatever the issue is, though.
They want you to learn your lesson and not just take the easy fix, right?
Yeah, so I see that being an issue in the future as well. So I don't know how widespread that's going to be, but I know that it's going to be possible, and probably more so for the wealthier people who can pay for that.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, a lot of brainwave activity things in that one. So that'll be interesting to see what comes up.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, that was super interesting. I read your agenda when you send it to me. And normally I don't like the questions that people post. I don't read those ahead of time because I find that I can get a better, my first answer is always the right one. Do you know what I mean? Unless I'm like, oh yeah, that picture, I'm misunderstanding it. But I don't read the questions ahead of time. But your agenda, I do read, because then it gives me a chance to, really take some time and see what's coming in regards to that. So I appreciate you sending that along ahead of time.
Okay, great. All right, we'll go on to the next topic of skinwalkers. Now, I'm sure many of us in the woo world, you've probably heard of Skinwalker Ranch. I think it's a ranch in Utah that has a lot of weird woo stuff happening, a lot of sightings of spaceships, aliens, and Bigfoot. But what is a skinwalker? I wanted to go into that topic a little more deeply and see what they're talking about. So in Native American lore, a skinwalker is usually a person who's kind of turned to evil and made a deal with the dark side, so to speak, in return for supernatural abilities. They're thought to be shapeshifters who can turn themselves into various animals, and they'll use their powers to carry out evil deeds and even, assassinations, things like that. And so it's not really talked about a whole lot within the Native American community. It's kind of one of those, open secrets, I guess. But there's some version of skinwalker in most cultures, but it's most associated with the Navajos. And according to Wikipedia, it's a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise himself as an animal. And so, they have a lot of different characteristics. They can say they take the form of like a coyote, that they would wear the skin of an animal, and then they could actually shapeshift into that animal. But in order for them to gain their power, they have to sacrifice a family member, like a child, some sort of close relative, in order to gain acceptance into this cult or whatever. And so once they do that, then they'll have a wide range of physical abilities, running at very high speeds. They're typically seen in the forms of coyotes, owls, or foxes. And even so, they can take possession of humans through deep eye contact. So, Sam, I wanted to see, what do you think? Is it possible for a person to use powers to actually shapeshift to become an animal? Does that make sense?
In the in-between realm, it does.
Okay.
So when you're telling me the story, I was actually getting a whole lot of information. So thank you for that. Okay, so the area where UFOs are typically seen, there are some strange creatures that do make it through the other realm when the portal opens. What they're doing is they're kind of doing hyperspeed, and they're busting through the realms to come into our world, right? So that opens, and these things will come through as well, and they're walking on the ground. But they're on the ground on the other side. But they do go back. That's why we don't find any skeletons. And there's reports of people seeing them, but it's like, well, how come if you've seen this creature, why don't we find the bones of some creature like Sasquatch, those sort of things? These are very reasonable suggestions. It's like, oh, if there's so many of these, or if you see them and they're real, why are we not finding bones? We find bones of coyotes in the woods and bones of bears. So it's because they are from another realm. So there's a number of things I think that people are kind of mushing all together. And there's there's some embellishment as well. Like they can possess you by looking at you in the eye. Believe me, if anybody, and possession is like almost non-existent, really. Because remember how strong we are, what magnificent beings we are. we're just encased in these human bodies. We're just here for a human experience. But in the pecking order of things, I mean, we're above the angels. So, you know, and we do attract the attention of these things, that are wandering through, and and they don't much care for us either, but we're in a vulnerable state as humans, especially since we don't really know what we are. Nobody remembers for sure, right? I just glean this when I'm running back and forth with my messages. I just get this information because it's just a residual thing that, you get some information here and there. And there's always, personalities, some of them don't change. Like there's always the blabbermouth.
They'll tell you everything. Well, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because there's one of the stories I love to watch, in addition to Bigfoot, Dogman, who is essentially like a werewolf looking type creature. And that's what my thought was when I was researching this, is people are attributing these evil things to people, but what they're really seeing are these creatures, like you said, creatures, demon, or things from the other side that are coming through, and they're thinking, oh, that's the person, or that's the relative that wants to do me harm, and they're just mixing them up or conflating them.
That's right. And then, like I said before, I mean, sometimes people will have one page of information and then make an entire novel, and all the information around it is just embellished or made up. So that's why they're like, oh, they can stare at you and possess your body. Well, no, they can't. I mean, you are a majestic being. I mean, source, your fellow source over on the other side, and people protecting you are not going to allow that to happen. You can only do that to yourself voluntarily by playing with things. And then this is where we get into, people who've made a deal, quote unquote, with the devil. Yes, that can happen as well. So, it seems that there's a smattering of different things all kind of amalgamated. Oh, this is a skinwalker. And I'm like, well, I'm seeing a number of different stories in there. I'm seeing a lot of stuff that's embellished and made up, like especially about the possession, especially about that it's people who can, like people who do make that deal, they can't turn into animals or anything like that. Like they're not given that kind of power. They're just given success, wealth, beauty, recognition, whatever it is that they want, they're given. And then there is a price to be paid, which means, and the thing is, oh, you can't be a skinwalker unless you murder a sibling. Again, that's part of the made up part of it. So I appreciate my gift for being able to sort of say, yeah, you know what? People are not completely crazy. There is something to this. And then let's just sort of wade through the grass here and see what it's really about. And, that's what I appreciate about the people on the other side and what they show me. Because, I mean, 10 years ago, I would have just looked at you and said, yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So I learned something. Yeah, and what I was thinking is that was right. They're conflating, and it's funny because there's also stories of shapeshifters. I think almost in every culture in the world. So it sounds like people will take these odd occurrences, whether it's the Bigfoot, the dog man, the weird things, and they'll apply some sort of story like, oh, it was a person that did this, or somebody has powers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, I could sit there all day and you could just throw questions at me one after the other, and I'll be like, okay, well, those would be the bad aliens, and this is the story there. And then, no, those aren't the same as the ones that made us, right? No, the hominids, we had nothing to do with them. We're DNA. Yeah, they met. I could just go on forever and ever.
All right. Well, I love that we deal with it in a professional manner, right? And we take it seriously. All right. And then our last topic, we're going to go with a Bible story with the walls of Jericho. So Raymond suggested this, and I wanted to, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Bible, and I've actually never fully read the Bible, but this is one of those stories that I remember, but I don't remember. So it was kind of neat to research it. So I'll kind of give you the history of it. So this is from the book of Joshua, which is the Old Testament. And the book of Joshua is really a narrative of the way Israel took possession of the land of Canaan, which is really kind of modern day Israel, that area in the Mediterranean. During this time, the Israelites were led by Joshua, who was the successor of Moses. So it's really a continuation of the Exodus that Moses started the Israelites on, and then they continued to land of Canaan under Joshua. So with the help of God, the Israelites conquer the land of Canaan, also, the promised land, and divide the land among the 12 tribes. And really the story is sort of an idealized, I think, version of how the Israelites came to Egypt. With the help of God, you can accomplish anything. So this happened around 1400 BC or BCE. Jericho was the first city attacked by the Israelites after they crossed the Jordan River and entered the land of Canaan. The Jericho is just to the east or kind of northeast of Jerusalem. So here's what happened: spies were sent in. There's a story of them being helped by a prostitute who hid them, and later on she tied a red scarf in the window so they wouldn't harm her when they entered the city. Um, there's a story about the priest carrying the Ark of the Covenant over the River Jordan first, and then the waters kind of receded and let everybody cross. So kind of another, like parting the Red Sea type story. But the verse in Joshua says this: the Lord said, "I have delivered Jericho, its king and its warriors into your power, uh, and have all the soldiers circle the city, marching around it. Do this for 6 days." With seven priests carrying ram's horns ahead of the ark. On the seventh day, march around the city 7 times and have the priests blow the horns. When they give a long blast on the ram's horn and you hear the sound of the horn, all the people shall shout aloud. The wall of the city will collapse and the people shall attack straight ahead. So, Sam, what can you tell us destroyed the walls of Jericho? Was it the marching, the sound? What actually happened?
Well, the wonderful thing about the Bible is that even though it was not meant to be a historical document, it is. People poo-pooed Noah and the ark, and then don't you find this ark in on Mount Ararat in Turkey, which would fit the location of where it should be. So the Bible is a historical document, but just like anything, it was written a very long time ago, and it was written before it made it to print. It was by word of mouth. So, of course, some things are going to be inaccurate. So it is true that Jericho was overtaken. The walls had fallen down. But the story that I was seeing as you were reading that was that they were marching to Jericho. And while they were marching to Jericho, a major earthquake hit the city and caused the walls to fall down. So it just ended up being good timing. It wasn't like they marched around. That kind of was made up by, like, embellished, like we talked before about with the skinwalkers, oh, they can look at you and get into your soul. It's just like, oh, and then and then God told them to walk around like this 7 times and shout. And then the other guy's going, yeah, that's the ticket, right? And then so they're telling the story because they're like, yeah, they just wouldn't believe that we just showed up and there had been this earthquake just a few days before and the walls had completely collapsed. And yeah.
Well, that's great because Raymond actually, when we were messaging back and forth about this story, he said, because I was thinking, well, maybe it was, I was throwing out some ideas. Maybe they just rushed the city anyway and tore them down themselves. But he said that area is prone to earthquakes. So it might have been a well-timed earthquake. So Raymond, I don't know if that was your theory or you've read that somewhere else, but that's a good one. You're right on with the earthquake. So, and then I think we've talked about the Ark of the Covenant before that they carried around. I'm trying to recall if you said it was full of clay pots or what you saw inside of it, but were you able to see what was actually or what is in that Ark of the Covenant?
I see some bones in there.
Okay.
So there's like some bones and some bronze and just things that are symbolic to the Israeli people. And gold, of course, is in there as well, which makes it heavy. But yeah, it was really just stuff that was, like a dagger, things that were symbolic.
The funny thing about the walls of Jericho or the city of Jericho story was, God didn't want anyone to get rich from looting the city, but take the gold, silver, and bronze because we'll put that in the Lord's treasury is what I think it says in that book. So, yeah, you can't have anything, but we'll keep that gold and just keep that with us, right? Very cool. All right. Well, no, that was great and very, very interesting. So, yeah, great. Glad we did that. All right.
It's fun. And like I said, this is just, the information that I get. And, if anybody has some deep-seated beliefs in that, that's fine too. That's the great thing about us all hanging out together is that we can examine these things.
That's right. We don't want to offend anyone. We're just curious and see if we can get some insight. So fun stuff. All right. Well, we have 29 questions, so we will jump right into those, and we will start with Tanya Oz. Uh, do departed loved ones get annoyed if we're given too long for them? Oh, sorry. If we grieve too long for them, what are some ways people grieve in more positive ways? And do you think as more people become awakened, will grief be shown differently than it is now? Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't say that they get annoyed. They get, it's almost like discouraging in the sense that they're helpless as they watch you suffer. And they're on the other side, and everything is so wonderful for them, and things are hard for you. So, a good way for you to grieve is to talk to them. Even though you can't hear what they say back to you, talk to them out loud about the good memories that you have, or even with other people when you have the opportunity and you say, oh, I remember Nana's biscuits. She always used to get them so big and fluffy, and mine are always hard as a rock and can be used as a hockey puck. So, like, they love that stuff when you can talk about them, where you remember stuff they did with you, and it's in a positive way, like you're just having a conversation with somebody and they know you haven't forgotten them, but they get upset, or they're, despondent over and unable to help you. If you're having, fits of crying, if you're missing your job and then it causes financial problems, or you're detaching from other loved ones because they don't understand, or there's fighting over, stuff that they had. Well, she got the China set and I was promised that, and she's got great Nana's ring and I was told that, that kind of stuff that upsets them, right? I would tell someone, I would be like, just take whatever you want,
Yeah. So stay positive. And I think since I've been in this group, I realize that when you do that, and they're with you too, when you're talking about them and sharing a story and you're gathered as a family, remembering them, they're right there with you. So yeah, enjoy those stories. All right. Next question is from Alex Green. Hello, Rudy and Samantha. Uh, Sam, could your guides share their perspective on luck? What is luck, and can people really influence it? Thank you.
Luck is really a combination of opportunity and and the timing, and then action. So you have an opportunity that's put in front of you, and then you take action. I mean, just as we are seeing we're going to see the largest transfer of wealth that the world has ever seen. I mean, this is the fourth turning. This is the end of a hundreds of year long business super cycle, and you got to be in the right place. And a lot of people, they have a feeling, they know something's not right, but they have not turned that into action. So the opportunity is there, but they're not turning it into action. And that's how I feel luck is, that you turn opportunity into action. If, for example, you just barely miss like a speeding car, because someone grabs you out of the way, that's just serendipitous or a coincidence, or, this is nothing to do. That's not like luck.
Okay. Oh, that's great. All right. Thanks, Sam. Matt Kurtz writes regarding the flood as portrayed in the Bible, the line, on the day all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, always stuck with me and made me ask if we truly understand the mechanics of our planet. Are there large underground oceans as have been described in ancient Chinese and other world myths? Does this relate to this line in the Bible? Thank you.
Yes. I think that, how people were like created in order to mine and serve, like the Anunnaki.
Right.
I think that's what they're called, the Anunnaki,
Yep.
something like that. Yeah. So there was in the mines, I think there was some water that came up from that, as well as the rains, because it was really just the area. I mean, it wasn't the entire world was flooded. It was like enough to like literally wipe everybody out except for, Noah and his ark.
Okay. Yeah.
And I
So
mean, Noah was just someone like me. That's all.
okay.
Everyone thought he was cray cray, but he was
Well,
actually
they
a
almost
source.
They tapped into an aquifer maybe, and it bubbled up, and and all the water came out. Okay.
Yeah, I had never thought about that before, but again, when you were talking, I saw it happening, and I'm like, oh, shoot, okay. I always thought it was 40 days and 40 nights of rain, and that the Anunnaki, because they did have that ability to make it rain.
Oh, okay.
You know,
All right.
yeah.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Next question is from William Penn. Did Jesus have kids, and is his lineage still in existence today? If so, are they aware of their lineage?
No, they're not, but they're going to be, and it's going to be in our lifetime as well. It's going to shock the planet. It is. It's going to shock people.
And did you say France? Where they're in?
Yes, France.
Okay.
That's what the people listen. This is just what the people on the other side tell me. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight. I was brought up Catholic. I know what the teachings are. I don't depart that much from the teachings in the sense that I believe about the war in heaven. I believe, that Jesus did exist and that he was serving source. Like, I do believe a lot of the things that the Christian religion believes. It's just that I'm a very realistic look at it as a medium because, we are humans, and that book was written by humans. And like I said, I mean, they knew about it, they saw it, but by the time it actually got to print, I mean, and there was a little bit of, embellishing going on as well. It's just, that's a human thing. You want to tell a little bit of a better story.
All right. The next one is from Detron. Hey, Detron. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Do your guides have info on California splitting up into 2 or 3 states? If so, any time markers from your guides and when this may take place? Thanks for all you do.
Definitely not. I do, however, see China splitting up into a couple of different countries, 3 or 4.
Wow.
3 larger ones, 1 smaller one, I believe. I also see the Democratic Party imploding. And I think that might happen before September because people are bugging me. Is Joe Biden still? And I'm like, you know what? I got nobody. I got nothing. I still got nothing in regards to who's going to be leading the Democrat. Oh, it's got to be Joe Biden. I got nothing. Maybe it's going to implode before then when all this stuff comes out and people are going to jail.
Yeah, I had a dream a few weeks ago that it was like I was waking up, but they forgot to enter their person, and like they missed the deadline, and there was nobody actually that ran. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see how it works out. All right. The next one, William Penn writes, is the Ark of the Covenant buried under the Sphinx?
There's something buried under the Sphinx that is important. And I think, again, that will be discovered as well. I don't know if it's the Ark of the Covenant, though, but it's something that's pretty amazing that will change the world history as we understand it. Maybe some technology.
It's supposedly like a big library. I think that they gathered up all the books. I forget what someone might know in the chat what the library is called. I can't remember, but yeah, some old documents. Maybe that's one theory I've heard.
Yeah, it's definitely going to change the history of the world because, I mean, before, 1,000 years ago, I mean, they think that everybody was, in the Stone Age, and they don't realize that there was an advanced society here at one time. I mean, they get ideas that they're just like, hey, regular, machinery, the pulley system wouldn't be able to create something like that. And how do you get those rocks cut so perfect and fitting so perfect? And you would need a big crane to move them,
Yeah, Library of Alexandria. I was thinking Alexander. Yeah, thank you everyone for writing those in the chat. So that makes sense. Okay. Oh, and maybe documents to prove Atlantis. That's what Edgar Casey said.
Yeah, there's something under there is. I agree with Casey. There is something under there that is, but it's not like it's not what you.
Not the Ark.
No, it's not the Ark. It would probably be more like the documents that prove Atlantis, which is, I believe, it's the area of Bimini.
Okay, cool. William Penn also writes, if someone has no psychic abilities, would it be wise to try and communicate with your tribe by yourself, or should this only be done through a medium?
Oh, no, you talk to them all the time yourself. You don't need a medium to do that. It's just that I can get the reply, right? But you should definitely, talk to your family and friends, and you'll get more like a feeling sometimes, or when you're like on the right track, one of the things that happens to me is the person like passes through me from the back, like right about from here up. So
Okay.
it's like from here, like from my temple, like to about here. And the person goes from behind and they just pass through me.
Okay.
So I can feel it just in, I mean, there's no denying it, right? Because it's not, it's not in my left leg or, or just my right ear. It's like, it's the same place all the time. And it's like an entity or a ball, like moving, like the ball's like this, and it's just moving through me. And then and of course it's affecting my energy field. And that's how I know, oh, I'm right. Okay, I got that. Because I'll say to them, oh, was it blah, blah, blah. And then I'll get that feeling like passing through. And then the person will say to me,
Okay.
like the other day, I asked somebody, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a whole boatload. Do you have a boatload of brothers and sisters? Are there like 5 of you? And then I felt like the ball like passing through me in and out. And then the guy goes, yeah, there's 5 of us.
Okay.
Right. But one of them had already died. Right. And it was the one who died who was like talking to me and telling me all this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I've definitely become more conscious of. I get that tingling as well, kind of in this area, mostly on my back. But it all started just by paying attention. So, William might say, the more you do it with intention and just notice subtle differences, you will start to tune in, and it becomes a little bit easier to figure that out. So.
Oh yeah, and hopefully me just blabbing about it all the time, like whatever is happening, that I share it, and someone goes, "Hey, that happened to me," and then I have an opportunity to explain it, and then it just helps the person advance a little bit further. And also confidence is a big part of it as well. Not just the knowledge, but the confidence is important.
For sure. All right. Dale writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. Are those who control the world as the shadow government basically evil beings with supernatural abilities? Are these people fallen angels?
No, fallen angels. Oh my gosh. You know who those are. So if you're a medium, you know who those are as soon as they enter the room. I mean, cue the heavy metal music.
Okay. Sean 123 and Moo, we had mentioned people about seeing lights, like when you close your eyes and seeing shapes and lights. And this is something I keep on my desk. I forget what this is, if it's some sort of geode or crystal that they dye. But this, without the white, this color here, this bluish purple, is probably the closest thing I can explain to what I see, and the colors kind of coalesce or they expand. So if you imagine the white stuff wasn't there, those are kind of the colors. So I think we talked about this last year, people seeing colors, and it came up on the Discord. So yeah, I'd be curious to see who else sees that. If when you close your eyes, if you're seeing kind of shapes and something, I kind of took that to be energy, because I've seen it change when my wife works on me, like change colors and pulsate and stuff. So
yeah, I was just going to say, you're just seeing the energy. That's
okay.
very early stages of, developing your abilities, because you can see the energy.
Okay. Do you still see that?
Yeah, I see. I'm just so used to it now.
Yeah.
I had to close my eyes for a minute and look at myself. Yeah, it's still, because I've had it like my whole life. It's only when you bring it up that this is something new or what have you, that I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and as you'll find, folks that have been around a while, we'll probably revisit some of these topics because there's always new people joining, or something may happen. You're like, oh yeah, that's happened to me. So that's what we hope you learn during these meetups. All right. The next one comes from Rosanna. Hello, Sam. You've mentioned that divination tools such as tarot cards, divining rods, and obviously Ouija boards are problematic because they attract familiar spirits to the user. But what about the use of American Indian medicine wheel cards to ask questions, or the use of a pendulum? Pendulums may be helpful in determining what foods are good for one's body. Do they also attract familiar spirits?
Yeah, all of that stuff where you're looking for something to be manipulated to give you an answer. If somebody is like a medium, for example, and they use a tool to focus, like the one that I was reading about, who was the Dutch psychic. I mean, he used a wire to focus, right, and it would spin, but it was the energy that caused it to spin. So I mean, I'm not against using tools that help you focus, but oh yes, that one there.
Dijkshorn.
Yeah, Dijkshorn. So, that's different though from somebody like using a pendulum, and then there's movement caused by these things that are in the other realm. Now, it could be harmless, and in many times it is, because your family or your tribe, they step forward pretty quick. but also you can get anything else that might be wandering by, and you don't have the protection. This is the problem, right? Like, I have the protection, but you see the little animation about the little things that are, if you don't have any protection, I mean, you're just a sitting duck, right? I have protection, so I get someone flinging me over the wall and getting me away from, you know, the grabby hands there that want to like choke the life out of me. But if you enter into that world, it's I don't really know how to pull somebody out myself. That's not part of my training.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Um, Next one, Casey writes, "Hello, Rudy and Samantha. Sam, question for the people on the other side. POTOS. Is universe or source God greater than or different from the creator God uh, begins who made Adam and Eve in the Bible? Or the creator God or beings who made Adam and Eve in the Bible?"
It's the same one. So a lot of people imagine God as like this male figure with the big white beard on the throne. I mean, they know it's not that, but you know what I mean? It's an entity. And then there's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And it's like, nah, it's all source. It's all just in a great big ball. And then we're part of that. And then we leave and come to earth in our own, we get put in our human body. And then we see what we are as an individual of source, individual but part of source, and it makes us better, stronger, more knowledgeable. Even some of the worst people who like that was just an experiment of the 5 cards that were dealt, and then how they dealt with what came to them in their life. So even their lessons are learned, even though they may not move up a level. Lessons are still learned as a being. Every single time you come to the earth realm, we all go through stuff when we're here. It doesn't matter who you are, where you were born at. You could be born into as a prince into a life of privilege, and you're still going to have issues, but just a different set of issues than the kid born in the slum in Bangladesh. But these are all human experiences, things that you learn from, and then when you go back to source, you make source that much stronger with the knowledge, and then everybody's all combined together.
Okay. All right, thanks. Oh, Cat M says in the chat, "How did you get your protection?" And I think you've mentioned that with your abilities, some bodyguards come with it, right?
Yeah. So I was born a psychic medium. So I was born with my spirit guides. So if you are a psychic medium, you're born with them, and that's why I really try to impress upon people. Yes, definitely examine the woo woo. Learn as much about it as you can. Find out what gifts you may have, but don't get sucked into the tools of divination, because those familiar spirits, they like to entertain. I mean, they're here, they're bored, they have nothing better to do. And if they can get, one of the majestic beings, if they can suck us in to, listening to them, following them, they might do some things for us that are impressive. But believe me, there's always a price when you pay attention to the dark side.
Okay. Alter Raven writes, "Will something huge happen this year on the 4th of July, specifically at Mount Rushmore in the United States?"
No.
Bitcat says, "Hi, Rudy and Sam. Are elementals like animals and plants the same entities as us after we pass away and are back with Source? Also, I have very strong connections with trees. If this is normal for, say, people in this group, or is it a unique ability?"
Well, I think that there's many people who have a significant connection with nature, and that's part of where they draw their healing and their energy from, is from nature. I draw mine directly from source, just because where I'm a psychic medium, that's where we get our energy and information. Whereas somebody else who, for example, might be a healing agent who was sent here to heal, that is their gift that they have. So they would be able to communicate more with the elementals, and draw that energy or manipulate that energy. And I don't mean manipulate in a bad way, but the spirits that are in, like horses and dogs and cats, they are not the same as us. We are majestic beings. We are actually attached to Source. We're part of Source. They are not. They exist here for us and our pleasure.
Okay. And I think you've said before, they're kind of one and done. They don't necessarily always come back, right? But they can be there on the other side for you.
Well, they're over on the other side.
In BitCat, I think in one of the Mickey Psychic meetups back in probably April of last year, we had a story about someone who was communicating with trees. It's the same as mentioned before. Kind of, if some people, that's their specialty, is communicating with trees and plants you can almost talk to. And I think Barton's even shared a story where he's got messages from a tree. So definitely it's a unique skill or ability. So I would say continue to explore that. All right. Sweet Home Chicago writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I've heard it said that we can create our own reality. How powerful is this tool? How powerful are we? Can we change negative events with a positive thought? When we pray, how specific do we need to be? Many thanks."
Our minds are very powerful, especially where two or more get together with the same intention. Yeah. So that's definitely a positive. I'm not a big one, though, on, this whole, name and claim it. It's the same. They had a religion like that as well, where they were like naming and claiming it. It was in Christianity. Like there was a Christianity that, God wants you to be rich, And I'm not saying that that's what that question is about. I'm just saying that is what comes to mind. So yes, you can affect your life by having a different idea and intention, but there are some things that you cannot change and you have to go through. But you should always try, ask, why go through it if you don't have to, right? So always ask. But then if you have to, just accept and know that it'll be later on that it'll become clear to you why you had to go through this, because this might have been one of your nexus points where, you had to go through that gauntlet. There was no getting around it, because in order to get to the other side, which was the good stuff for you in your life, you had to go through that and learn those lessons.
Okay. Sweet Home Chicago also says, "Hi again. Many times when I think of someone, I hear from them. I've been thinking of a friend in Libya for months. I just received an email. He was put in jail in Tripoli for 137 days and suffered physical abuse. Was he reaching out, or was I reaching out to him? How does this work? I'm very glad that he survived. It must have been horrific for his family. He required surgery. Many thanks."
It is what I call knowings. It's just part of being able to reach into the ethos that is around. So you have a familiarity with people that so you can reach into their ethos and get information. Once you've made contact with somebody, and then that's why a lot of times you think about somebody, the phone rings or they email you or you run into them on the street, either like a few minutes later or sometime later on that day. And it's like you never run into them like at all. And then you just randomly think about them and then boom, they're there like an hour later or something. So this is what I call psychic knowings from you just pull it. You're pulling it from the ethos.
My old prospector friend, Fred, who taught us about dowsing, said he must have had some gifts because he would talk about he had caller ID with his mom. Like the phone would ring. "Hi, Mom." Yeah, he just knew it was her. So very cool.
Well, especially if he had dowsing, then he probably had some command over ability.
Yeah, he was interesting. He was an interesting guy. All right, so one more from Sweet Home Chicago. "Can wild animals detect safety? A robin built a nest in my heavily used kitchen door. She is sitting on her nest consistently now. No babies yet. Her partner is feeding her, so we're getting close. I wonder why they picked a location with so much activity by the family and our dog. Was this random, or do animal birds know they are safe? Many thanks."
Oh, they know when they're safe.
Okay.
She probably observed the family for quite a while and felt like she would be unnoticed.
Okay. All right. Marianne Simpson has a couple things. Marianne, I'm not sure what the first question is. Sounds like you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now. And she says, "Sam and Rudy, thanks for all you do. And do you both have any suggestions for those of us to deal with the illusion that we see and how to comfort ourselves during this time of awakening? Big hugs."
Jeez, how to comfort ourselves now? Yeah, I guess it is kind of the everything all at once, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, see everything all at once. That's hard. I know. people are worried. I'm not worried, as I know this is just all part of it. And I want you to think about it this way. I mean, especially if you're in America, you're actually the one country where you really don't have much at all to worry about. Like, you really don't. If you're in the United States, you're blessed and fortunate, and many will be coming to you looking for help over the next few years. So that's going to be the toughest things for Americans. But you can just look at it this way. I've always used the example that we're all sort of holding on to one another, arm in arm, and we've got our life vests on, and the big waves are coming in, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is, because we're all strung along the water line in a line, as the waves come in, some of them, they have a peak point and they're sloshing, and some people end up getting really beat up. Yeah. And other people will just be, depending on where you're at, and another person's like, hey, I'm getting all beat up over here. I got the portion like crashing right on my head. And, so this is kind of a little bit what we're going to be going through with the economies of the world. And there's going to be a lot of luck and location involved, but try not to worry, because you know what? You're in the know. And that's 90% of it. Okay. I mean, the people who got out of Germany, who were Jewish, before they started shipping people off to the camps, those were the people who were paying attention, and they were able to get their families out because they were paying attention. So, I mean, if you're paying attention and just, and try not to worry. And I know that you're like, oh, I'm all set, but what about all these other gazillion, million, trillion people that I know? It's like, try not to worry about it. At least you won't be somebody who's in a position of weakness. You'll be able to be helpful and useful, and you won't be weighing other people down. You'll be, bringing them up, and that's the best position to be in.
Okay. All right. Cat Lady AZ has a question, kind of personal, but we'll go talk a little bit about Reiki. So she says, hi, Sam and Rudy, a lot of interesting questions. Healing is my gift, and I was wondering if learning Reiki is my path. What do your guides say? Sam, I would say, what about, Reiki as a healing modality overall? What do you get about that?
Well, I know a lot of people do Reiki, and I myself, I don't get involved in it just because of all the funky things that I would attract.
Yeah.
Just being what I am as a medium, and just the same reason I don't go into deep meditations either. A lot of people don't know that about me. They're like, oh, do you meditate? And I'm like, oh. There's some stuff I don't want to see, guys, right? And that's what happens is when I open up, it's a different experience for me. So I think for someone like me to do Reiki, that it would probably not be, the best idea.
Okay. And Marianne, the one thing I'd say from what I've heard about Reiki is, there isn't like a kind of a standard, curriculum for Reiki. So you really have to use your intuitive skills and make sure you have a true Reiki master who can teach you well, because anybody can say they're a Reiki master. So just be careful with that as you go into it. But it's definitely, it's a thing that, I know people that use it. So.
Yeah, and it can attract familiar spirits. So again, that's what I worry about if someone's not quote unquote called to it. Yeah. But where she mentioned that she does feel like she has the gift of healing. And like I said, I believe that anybody who has any gifts at all, whether you're a psychic medium or a healer, this is something that requires protection. So that would be something that would already have been afforded to you so that you could do your job, complete your assignment while you're here.
All right. AC writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. Will there be a solar panel made that don't emit EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, unlike the ones used at this time? Thanks.
I wouldn't say that they're going to be able to completely get rid of them. Okay. Just improvements.
Marianne Simpson writes, there are books about the Nephilim angels, half-breeds. The Nephilim angels, half-breeds of human angel, or half-breeds. Wait, let me start this over.
I know, the Nephilim, yeah.
The Nephilim, angel half-breeds of human and angels. They became bad because they created war. They became very bad. Their parents, the watchers that were imprisoned. They are fallen angels. It's a long story, but any info on the Nephilim and I guess who they are,
Yeah, I know who they are.
Okay.
First of all, they're not any part of angels. Angels don't actually even have any genitalia.
Okay.
They're not male or female. They can't procreate and make any children at all. They're a one-off created by Source. We created them for to serve us, and um, the demonic entities, the fallen angels, were thrown out of heaven because of the war that happened, because they became full of pride and wanted to take over. Like, why should we be running things, kind of thing, when the angels should be, who are so big and powerful, should be running things.
Mhm.
So, anyways, that didn't work out for them, the ones who tried to revolt against us. And so, yeah, they're in the realm, the earth realm, but they're in the in between, right? They're known as demons. So they can't possibly, make children. So they couldn't make the Nephilim. What the Nephilim were the children of the combination of humans and the Anunnaki, who made humans sort of in their image as much as they could. They made a few adjustments, of course, because we don't look exactly like the Anunnaki, and they were much bigger. So these were Anunnaki that had human women that they made children with, and then they became the Nephilim. So
Okay. And Sam, I'm trying to remember, we kind of got into this in some of the Hindu religion. And if anybody has any good sources, it's a topic I'd love to explore further. But yeah, how are they associated with the Nephilim kind of fought amongst each other and had their groups of humans on Earth? And are they responsible for different cultures? Or that'd be an interesting topic to explore at some point. So,
yeah, I would have to read into it and see what stories I get, because really I'm clueless about all of this stuff. I don't have I don't have a dog in the fight at all. I'm
yeah.
just kind of like, you just ask me, and I just whatever story I'm seeing, I just relay it to you, and it's all fun.
Exactly. All right. Andy has a couple questions. Andy says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. How to pray, think about it, emotionalize it, becomes a feeling right now. Um, can hold the feeling all day long. The intensity and duration brings it in faster. Any insight on this?"
I don't really feel like there's any special way to pray other than, concentrating and thinking about something, and actually asking,
Okay.
and really wanting it, agreeing with it, wanting it, speaking it out loud, any of those things, I'll constitute praying and throwing your attentions into something.
And positivity, I would say, don't come from a place of fear or need or want. It's yeah, those positive thoughts can go a long way too. Well, Sam, that's all the questions for today. I think, let's see, Barton, if you're out there listening, I think you are. We'll see if we can get you on for the next meetup. So check your messages. And our next meetup will be Wednesday, May 27th.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. Thanks again, Rudy, for putting on such a great show tonight. This is one of my favorite things on the channel. Thanks so much again.